So today's session of Beyond Your Book is super special to me because I love talking about turning anything into an experience, whether it's a course, which happens to be the main topic of our conversation today. So whether you have a book, even better. If you don't have a book, there's still a thing or two I'm willing to bet you're going to learn out of today's session. So Jen is also with me. If we have not met, I'm Anna Maria from Hasmark, and Jen is also my partner in crime from Hasmark. She's navigating the slides for us today. Also just saying hello, everyone. So in our agenda today, I'll walk you through very briefly what we'll go over. So we'll start with a little bit about who we are in case it's the first time we're meeting. Who is this for? So that you can make sure that the next hour of your life is invested wisely or so. We'll talk a little bit about this month's theme, about why a course exists, a little bit about this word, your book, inside your ecosystem, mapping it out a little bit so you get an idea of what is it exactly that we're going to build. And then we'll talk about extracting your course. And that's where we'll get into a bit of the experiential side of starting to create that outline. And it may not quite be exactly what you think it is. So I am so excited for all of you to experience that. All right, who we are. If you have not met us before, we are a publishing company that helps self-publishing authors publish their books and market their books and become bestsellers. We focus on three areas: the publishing side, where we basically walk alongside you to get your book into a book product you could sell all over the place, whether it's on Amazon, in stores. We help you with the marketing side, where we walk with you to help you achieve bestseller. And this is why we're here for the Creator's Pathway. We are so passionate about what else can you do? How can you turn your book and amplify it in all sorts of different ways? So with our Beyond the Book session, we're here to support in a slightly different way you in that creator field that you may be in after you write your book or even before you write it. So nice to meet you if we have not met before, especially those on Team Replay. All right. A little bit about, the topic that we're going to be talking about, but I just want to make sure that you are okay with said topic. So this is really geared towards authors who are feeling the pull to create a course, as the title implies. Creators who want a little bit of clarity before jumping into creation mode and putting in all that hour and time investment that creation demands of us. It's also for authors who are ready to think a little bit more strategically. We're going to add a lot of that strategy inside. And also it's for writers who value integrity, depth, and sustainability, because whether you like it or not, you are building a business. And for it to help support you from not only a fulfillment place, but also from a being able to your time investment back to be sustainable, not draining, and also the experience you're creating for either your readers or your participants that are coming into your ecosystem, giving them that depth that is perhaps craved. All right. Hi, Carol. I see you from Cape Town. All right. So this month's theme, let me glance over really quickly what we're going to be doing. The first thing is understand how a course will serve your work. It sounds really great in theory, but how is it in practice that would even help? Then we're going to decide where it belongs in your ecosystem of your business. And that part is important because it depends on, or it determines, I should say, the length of videos, what's included, does it even have videos, the format, the pricing. Then we'll see how your book already contains that foundation, and it may not be quite exactly what you're thinking about. And then ideally, you'll leave with a course outline draft. It may not be the end thing, but you'll see as we move through the experience how I'm going to have you think about even what to create next. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a pretty good idea of what you want to focus on. All right, I know I'm moving pretty fast. Let me know in the chat if you are okay. So far, so good. Good. All right. So, why a course exists? Once upon a time, and that was probably 10 years ago, or a little bit less by now, a course existed to impart information. And now that information is accessible with a few keystrokes, with a Google search, or voice asking our preferred AI of choice or whatnot, information is no longer the main purpose of a course. It is to guide that practical application that you want folks to dive into. So if you have a methodology or a framework, it's moving people through that and supporting them through that. It is to help them implement in real life what it is that you want them to do next. Whether it's for some people, it's going to be very, very clear whether you are, I'm thinking of our business authors, who it's very clear how they move people through change. But for others, for example, who are children's book authors, it may not be so clear what you want them to do. So you're going to be guiding them, your clients, to that journey, what it looks like, and through your offerings, bring them there. All right. So it's about the experience. So in terms of mapping your ecosystem and what you're going to create, this is the moment that I know you could see the slides, but I almost want to place my ask that you not only listen with your physical ears and intake information with your physical eyes, but bring forward the reader that just read your book and how they might be feeling in that minute right after, what they may be craving next. Bring in what your ideal path for them would be like. How would you want to guide them through, okay, you read my book, now what? What does that look like? Maybe you have a vague idea or a specific idea. Does not matter how concrete it is, but just let all of these elements come forward, because as we move through the next set of slides, all of that will be information that you can use to create your what's next. So what typically we think of when we say, let's turn your book into a course, is the book, outline by outline, table of content, 2 modules. So chapter 1's module 1 becomes the course in tandem in such a way. And the next step, if there is some. But what you're actually building is a little bit more circular than that, because folks may not necessarily be ready to jump in from your book into a signature, full-on, in-depth course either. Or based on what you share, it may just not even be what their next logical step is. And I'll go through some examples with you. But as you read, these are super, super marketing-y words. Do not worry, we're going to put some language to the jargon that is a little bit more easily digestible. But from your book, you may have an order bump, and after that, you can invite folks into an upsell and then into a signature offer. So it's a little bit linear, but it also has a bit of a purpose in how you're going to move through them. Each one, whether it's an order bump, an upsell, or a signature offer, takes care of something different. And we'll go over that on the next slide a little bit more. So this is where the questions of how long should it be, how many modules, and what should I price it at, start to become a little bit clear. Because something designed, whether it's a course designed to be an entry point or that order bump or that upsell, will look very different than a very meaty signature offering, your highest end offering that has in-depth level of support from you and all the bells and whistles. So depending what you're creating for, will depend on, you'll have your answer for the length, you'll have the answer for how deep in the material you should go to, or how micro of a problem you're going to solve instead. The level of support that will be involved from you, how much access do they get to you as the course creator and or mentor in a way as they move through the experience with you, and what you should price it as. Okay, so on the next slide, we're going to begin to really start thinking about your book in the context of what's the next thing? What's the next course that I'm going to create? So hold this question at the top of your mind. What does this specific course need to do inside the funnel I am building? Okay. So on the next slide, we're going to start with the first two. Thankfully, you can check off your low-cost introductory offer if you have a book, because that would be it. Your book's purpose is to essentially do all the hard work. You're introducing your philosophy, you're introducing your values, you're building trust, and the readers, the most important one, that last one, the readers can self-identify if they resonate with your message, with the way you're teaching, with the metaphors that you're using, with where you're going into this world. Is it someplace that they feel you could support them in their own journey? So that makes it incredibly valuable. That's like years of social posts into one book, essentially, that you could think of it that way as well. So you kind of already have this part down, at least if you're listening to this particular session. Now, your order bump. Traditionally, in digital marketing, the job of your order bump is not to make you money. It is to self-liquidate any ad spend or any spending that you need to do to acquire your audience. So that is very important to mention, because whatever you're going to create here is not going to be your signature meaty course. But as part of your business, it is still a very important little thing to add in and to consider what can you do here to help you sustain. Right? On the other side of things, its purpose for the readers is to help them apply a little bit of what they have read in your book, reduce any confusion, perhaps around one area, or solve a micro problem. So it is not a full course. Just wanted to really have that land. So some incredible examples are things like a guided workbook that they purchase right afterwards that helps with that implementation. If a short mini video series or a companion mini course could have a similar effect as well. And I mean mini. It is an expansion on perhaps one area, one chapter of your book, and that is it. Or a reflection and implementation guide. So one of the funnest examples I have found is one of our authors has a book. It's a very short book, but it's all about cleaning your home in the most efficient and fastest way possible. And her tips are golden. She shares everything from like how to position your body, how to do it so that it's fast and gets the job done. It is so technical in a way. It is mind-blowing. So for her, a really cool order bump she may want to add is maybe a companion Excel sheet that has everything from daily chore charts, or maybe she organizes it by month and she has what you need to do inside each month. Or maybe another one, a tab can be on annual tasks that need to be done. One can be seasonal, but she can have this companion guide, whether it's to an Excel sheet or for those of us who love things like Notion boards and whatnot, she could sell that because that helps with implementation of what is in her book, but is not the meat and potatoes of her book being converted into the full course either. So see if there is something like that that is swirling in your awareness regarding this particular order bump and this particular mini course thing that you can create after your book. The other two, typically, your upsell in your business is where you begin to actually make your profit. With that in mind, here's a little bit about the two between the upsell and the signature offer. The upsells cost is a little bit more. Most are between 100 and I would say 350, sometimes $500 mark. It can go up to the $1,000 mark for those who are more serving folks on the higher end of their clientele. But here, you're going to have a little bit more meat. It provides guidance, context, keeps the momentum going. It starts to give that structure and implementation, and it helps people stay on task so that they can get the outcome that you're promising them, the outcome that they signed up for, an outcome that they desire. So some examples could be a 4 to 6 module course, still on the smaller side if you so desire. You could decide to do it as a group program that is live, that you meet live with them each week, each month. You set the cadence. It could also be a self-paced course as well that people purchase and they go through it at their own time and has no involvement from your side. Now, your signature offer, that I put in brackets there, high-end offer. And oftentimes, some of us will not even want to go close to that, and that is fine. For some of us, our upsell kind of becomes our signature offer as well. So I'm going to confuse you a little bit. But what I want you to keep in mind is that when you will go out there in the world and start Googling and researching, you will find these types of marketing definitions, and everyone's going to have a slightly different way of sharing this. What I want you to keep in mind is that think of this last offer that you could potentially create as the most expensive one for your client, but the one that you also are most involved in. So that could be anything from $500 to the thousands. So the purpose is to support that long-term change. It's for people who want more personalized support and for deep integration. So some examples are things like creating one-on-one support for folks. You could still have a course that they can reference and still give them one-on-one support as they watch the videos and then maybe have questions. It's a high-end mastermind where you still have a group of folks that come in, they move through the experience together, but maybe you provide within that one-on-one support to each in addition to group calls. Or it could look completely different, like speaking engagements, right? Back to my example of our lovely author who wrote about how to clean super efficiently. For her, maybe her signature offer, the highest offer she can give, is I'll come into your home and clean it in the most efficient way possible. I'll be in and out and it'll be sparkling clean. And that is her signature offer, right? It will look very different depending on what you talk about, depending on your business, depending on what is it that you are sharing with the world and the change you would like to see in the world. On our next slide, I do think before I dive into it, I pause for a second and sort of let absorb. And if there's any questions, this is a pretty good time to ask them because we'll go into the exercise of you starting to extract a little bit of it. Now, if you don't have a pen and paper, I highly recommend this is the perfect time to get one in case you want to jot down ideas, thoughts that are coming forward. And if not, I know some of you are always joining us while driving and listening in. Please be careful if that's the case with you, but contemplation works just as well. Okay, so let's walk you through how to decide what you're going to create next and for what area you're going to insert your course next in. So on the next slide, we are starting with the first lens, your order bump material. So in here, these are the two questions that I would love for you to answer. I do think before I start, I will set a little timer just so that, oh, hang on. I have too many things open. There we go. All right, 5 minutes to move through this first exercise. So to determine what could possibly be your order bump, think of where in my book do readers usually pause, underline, reflect? And what concepts create that like, oh, or aha moment, but they don't necessarily tell them what to do next. And if you want us to brainstorm, please feel free to write a little bit in the chat as well. So these can be things like guided reflections. For clarifying explanations, this is where a short video series where you go deeper into one concept that you think is really important for them to grasp first. So that mini course can also work well for clarifying or going deeper. Or prompts or examples that you can walk people through. And as we had in our example for our lovely book, anything like an Excel sheet that could support people in implementing, or habit tracking, Notion sheet where they can start documenting, and maybe having an online journal where they're reflecting on certain things and tracking certain behaviors. Could work very well. And in this one, as you are just spending time maybe brainstorming and jotting things down, what I want to remind you is that for this particular order bump, you are not looking to make all of your money back. And I bring that in because sometimes you may have a really cool idea and say, oh, this is worth $100 or $200. Bring it back down to something you're comfortable selling for anything between 15 to say $47. Something that feels good, something that still helps your reader in some sort of way. Because again, the purpose of creating this is to help you with your expenses. And a secondary purpose is that these will also be the folks that you know are most interested in what's next, a deeper connection with you. One of, I know Carol, who is on the call with us, she is writing stories on the mythology of Africa. And one really cool thing that you could do as an order bump is to almost have that reflection journal, because oftentimes it's hard to notice in myth and interpret. So it'll be really cool to have this guided pathway to say, hey, so this myth brings up topics of this, and this. Let's look at it closer in your life where these can come up and guide them through it in that way. So I hope this is helping to clarify, to get the wheels turning and the reflections turning a little bit. With about a minute left or so on the timer, I will invite you to write down your last thoughts, your last sentence, or your last bullets as you're furiously making notes, if that is where you are at the moment, knowing you can come back on the replay anytime. And if anyone would like to share in the chat, we are definitely open to what came up for you in terms of ideas that you want to either run by me or the team or our wider group as well. Don't be shy. All right. Gotta love our music. Now let's see if I could properly stop it. There we go. All right. Let's do this exercise for our next version, our next lens, your upsell. So this is where you're coming closer and closer to creating that course that perhaps most resembles your book. So here are some questions. Let me start the timer for us. Where does my book suggest change, but does not fully walk them through it? Which ideas require practice, repetition, or context to implement? So because we're most resembling a course, if you have a framework, a process, if you have specific exercises and practices that you share in the book, putting them in a completely different format with audio, with music, can really be beneficial as well. Or if you have stories that imply a method but don't necessarily teach it, step by step inside your book. So to add in some ideas for where does my book suggest change, but not fully walk through them. Maybe you have a children's book or a fiction book that talks about having courage. How does one get courage? How does one cultivate it? How does one um, move through whatever blocks they have so they can even have access to courage? What are some behaviors of courageous people? What are behaviors of non-courageous people that they need to walk through? So you can build a whole thing about, especially if courage is your theme, of these questions. Um, Maybe we're courageous in some instances and not in others where we shut down. How do we identify it? How is courage or lack thereof impacting our ability to speak the truth of our hearts? So there's so many things, especially if you in this life have become an expert on courage and walking people through it. There's so many different ways that you can walk someone through and navigate having more courage and being more brave in their lives, right? Which ideas require practice, repetition, or context? So I love the practice and repetition because, for example, that could be so many times I read books and I'll say, do this meditation 5 days a week or for X amount of time. So that's repetition. Practice, like our example in our book, practicing cleaning our homes in that most efficient way, Maybe there's a course. Maybe we need to see the videos of our lovely author doing it so that we can imitate her, and then the visual from that we have from the book matches the reality, right? So from children's books with more abstract messages to business books that are a little bit more easier from the perspective that most of the time there is a methodology or a framework that you can more easily extract. Or I should say is more visible than an invisible one like courage, right? Or grief, right? How do we move to grief? What are the stages of grief? What are what are ways that are safe to explore and ways that it's not? So all of those things are worth considering into helping folks navigate and turning that into a course. As we move into our last 45 seconds or so, asking you to write down your last thoughts as well. And making notes of what came through as possible course material for your upsells. So I hope you're finding this helpful to think of how to structure your course based on where it will live and its job that it'll have in your business as well. So as we move to our third lens, which is our signature offer material, keep in mind as well that if you do not desire to create the two, an upsell and a signature offer, if it does not make sense for what you are particularly building in your business, or if it does not, if you don't have time, materials, capacity to support three, consider doing only one. And then you can sort of decide. It'll act as a similar third leg. Because remember, your order bump covers costs. And from upsell and signature offer is where you start to make your money, your profit, to support your beautiful work and the movement you're putting forward in the world. So for that reason, your upsell and signature offer can play that same role. So I just wanted to put that out there once again before we dive into your signature offer material. Okay, so I'll start the timer for us. So here's some questions about your signature offer is which parts of my book would benefit from feedback, personalization, or accountability? Because that directly shows how much of you needs to be involved in delivering this experience to your reader and client. And also, where does change depend on conversation, nuance, or lived support? So this is where if you have the desire to be a little bit more involved than creating perhaps a self-paced course, this is what some really cool things you could do. A live group program where you get together with your participants, a mentorship of some kind. Maybe you want to certify folks on your methodology and how to apply it. Or if there's any long form, long term transformational experience that folks just need time, right? Building a business, you need time. So that's why you'll see a lot of successful business masterminds that are in the year long range. right? Certification courses. I don't know how many around here are certification collectors between becoming Reiki masters or learning how to channel or being certified in reading the Akashic records or being certified as all sorts of like life coaching comes to mind as well, right? Those are typically longer. So going back to our more practical example of we have a lovely author. She is writing a book on grief. And her signature offer may not look like any of the things that I had described. Maybe hers is retreats, where she invites folks to come in person and have an experience for either 3, 7 days to help work through grief, right? And maybe her upsell is a little bit more of the practical things of working with grief, and her retreats are that extremely high level of being held um, and and supported. For our lovely author who writes about cleaning your home efficiently, I mentioned earlier that her signature offer can look like her coming into homes and cleaning. If she wanted to um, franchise her methodology, she could perhaps create a certification program that she walks other people through, and then they start going into other people's homes and clean in her way because it is fast and efficient. So hopefully you get a bit of a very wide idea of what a signature offer can look like beyond just converting your table of content into modules. Because for some, that'll make the most beautiful sense. The book is structured that way. The material calls for that. But for others of us, it is not so obvious of all the things that we could do with courses, with experiences that we're creating next. So, as we have 30 seconds left to write down your last notes, your last few ideas, I hope this gave you a really good variety and taste for what is possible as you're creating the course, but within these various, I suppose, more business oriented reasons. All right, let's hear that lovely music. There we go. Okay. So as we come close to completion, I wanted to share a little bit more about Hasmark's why. And part of what we're passionate about is changing the landscape of how we learn by making educational content fun again. So we always have this like equation, education plus entertainment equals edutainment. And part of what we do is we're always on the lookout for the exciting and amazing things our authors bring to us inside their books are mind-blowing. I don't think there's a single one that we're not genuinely excited to dive into their book and create it and market it and get them that bestseller status. And we're so excited. We want to see what else can you do. Right? So on our next slides, you are invited, if you are okay to go ahead and create your course, by all means, create it. Get it ready. We have been working in the last, oh gosh, I think Judy has been working the last 3 years minimum, if not this being the fourth year, of constantly opening up different avenues where one of your courses can live as well. So book a call with us if you want to explore what that could look like. If you need a little bit of a brainstorm discussion to see, okay, what about this? What about that? Would love to hear from you and strategize what you can do next as well. What is the best logical thing and creative thing for you to do next? And if you need a little bit more support in creating these assets that you will be working with, whether it's your course, a little something, a mini something for your upsell, or no, sorry, your order bump, we do have a program called our Creator Circle where you are invited to join in and we will walk you through step by step. It is a bit more of a done with you type of membership, creatorship. So let us know if you need a little bit of extra love and care, and we'd be happy to talk to you about the Creator Circle as well. And other than that, we will be back in March for another Beyond Your Book session. And on the next slide, the big reveal of our topic for next month is teaching through story. Oh, yeah. So you're going to have to create probably a little something, or hopefully you're inspired to create a little mini course or a little something. So hopefully as you structure your modules or what you want to say, teaching through story will hopefully give you a little bit more of what words to use to make that beautiful impact. So save the date for March 18th, same time, same place, 12 noon. We'll meet right here on Zoom. And if you are on our newsletter list, you will automatically get an invitation to come join us. So a big thank you for all of you who joined us live and for Team Replay who watched this with us. And again, if you have any questions whatsoever, we're here. We love talking about creating courses, talking about publishing books, and about marketing them. And so don't be shy to reach out to us in any way that feels good, whether it's by email or this video will be on YouTube, so even in the comments or wherever you would feel comfortable, we would love to receive your words. All right, everyone. Well, wishing you a fabulous rest of the day and a fabulous time creating all your incredible courses and experiences.